Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is January the 12th. Welcome to Today in LA. I'm Forrest Lee, and calling shortly will be Michael Amos from Grayton Beach and Mike Amos en route, or he's in Birmingham, Alabama. We expect Bill Rice any moment, and I believe Bill may have just entered the building. He needs a tardy slip to enter the studio, but anyhow, thank you for joining us this morning, and we'd like to thank our sponsors. Of course, you see Cinco Drugs on the screen. We'd like to thank Jason Gregory and Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Troy, Alabama. It's located on 113 United States 231 North here in Troy, Alabama. And welcome, Bill Rice. What a great day to be an Alabama fan, and it's just a beautiful morning, even though it's a little gray outside. Welcome.
Thank you, Forrest. I bet there's probably a lot of people that are going to be late or maybe call in and not go to work today.
Well, it's just unbelievable. You know, I was kind of nervous, when we fumbled the ball and they tied it up 14-14. I'm thinking, Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns again. But they just went down the field. And even after Smith got hurt in the second half, I'm thinking, we still got it. Then they got within 14. I'm thinking,
yeah, it was still a game.
And we just kept going down the field. You cannot say
You keep
enough.
saying we, so you've got to let everybody know that you are an Alabama fan.
Oh, yeah, from a long ways back. But Alabama just kept moving down the field when they needed to. Final score 52-24. And we'll give you the results of our who was closest on the picks here in a few.
I bet it was probably Jason.
Actually, I believe it was someone else. It wasn't Jason.
But
you hit the Alabama score on the nose. You
Yeah.
picked 52, but you had Ohio State scored too many times.
Yeah.
But,
Well, let's see. Let's talk about the game. I would make a couple points. This team might be the best ever in Alabama history. They're fun to pull for. I like this team. I like the kids. I like the storylines. They just cool, calm, collected, determined, impressive all the way around. Mac Jones, everybody was just writing off that the game MVP was going to Devontae, but I think you could make an equally strong case that Mac Jones should have been the MVP.
Have you ever seen the passes as perfect? I mean, he had a couple of missed throws, but
Not many.
Not many. But what set the tone was Will Reichard. There was not a return on any of the Alabama kickoffs. They were in the end zone, and you haven't been seeing that much all year.
Yeah, that's right.
And
I think every one of them almost went.
Of course, that's the first thing that stands out to me. And then, of course, the last thing is Landon Dickerson getting to play the final two snaps.
Yeah.
And then he picks up Nick Saban and walks off with him. But that's very special for Landon Dickerson to be able to do that.
And Waddle comes back and plays after a bad broken ankle 10 weeks ago against Tennessee.
That was a factor. I mean, he had
Just the fact that he played, he caught 3 balls. All right, let's see who this is. Good morning. You're on Today in LA. Who's calling, sir?
Hey, morning, it's Michael.
Hey.
Good morning, and roll tide.
Guess what we're talking about, Michael?
We're talking about the amazing Alabama Crimson Tide.
We're not talking about COVID. We're not talking about protests at the Capitol. We're not talking about the weather. When you have a 13-0 season under the conditions Alabama just did it, you get to be talked about a little bit more on Today in LA.
Yeah, I mean, I know your dad played for the great Paul Bear Bryant, and saving winning number 7 last night, breaking Bear Bryant's record. I guess he was tied with Bear Bryant for 6 national championships. What would Bill Rice Sr. about last night?
He would have been the happiest person on the planet. He always was a Coach Saban fan, and I've always been one that says it's a toss-up on who's the greatest of all time, but I think I'm going to give the edge to Nick Saban after last night this season.
Sarkisian, good luck to him in Texas, but I mean he had a heck of a, he called a heck of a game.
I mean, how much is he? Whatever he was being paid wasn't enough because he draws up ball plays, and then Mac and the team execute them as well as anybody I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Defensively.
I mean, Mac had that one fumble, but other than that, I don't know how you didn't give him the MVP. He was unbelievable. I mean, Smith was unbelievable for a half and broke all the records, but I mean, I thought Mac Jones should have been MVP.
Yeah. That's the point I made right before you called in. Michael.
When they brought it to 14 points there in the third quarter, he just went on down the field again.
You know who I started thinking about when I was watching him last night? And it really, I get so nervous in the games, it gave me confidence. I said, he looks like a college version of Tom Brady. I mean, he's just completely in control, not an athlete like Brady is. Every pass, on point. He always throws it where they can catch it and keep running. But he's got the it factor and the poise. It's just, I don't know. I can't conceive a better football season for a quarterback anywhere than Mac Jones had.
Well, the offensive line, the Joe Moore Award winners, and you include the tight ends of Forrestall and Big 85 Randolph and Billingsley and what they've done all year. I mean, that's the control. Even Chris Owens, I thought, did a wonderful job.
I talked about he didn't have a good grade in the Notre Dame game, but I don't think that was I read that from one person, but it looked like to me that Chris Owens played fine.
And we had like Alabama had three defensive backs who were from the Miami area. You just hate it for the.
Well, I will say that the Stars kind of.
When Battle went out, the great safety number 9 went out in the game. I told my wife, I was like, this could be huge. I was like, this guy is basically the Dylan Moses in the secondary as far as getting everybody set and a great player, especially on blitzes, and just a great player overall, tackling and everything. And thank goodness I didn't come back to home Alabama because Malachi Moore didn't play at all.
And Christian Barmore.
Oh, yeah, he had a coming out party. I was counting on him coming back next year, but I don't think he's coming back.
He looks just like old Darius that played at Alabama. Big old burly
Marcel
guy,
Darius.
Like, Darius that won the national championship in 2009. He's that kind of player.
He's got a little bit of Quentin Williams, too. He's still got this baby fat. He's kind of pudgy, but he played a great game last night. I'll say this, though. I think Alabama beats Ohio State if they're at full strength, but Alabama was caught them at a good time. They have 2 of their defensive linemen that didn't play. They've got an All-American offensive lineman that gets hurt. Their star running back gets hurt on the first play of the game, and then their quarterback, wasn't 100% and hadn't got all the practice reps he usually did. So a lot of things kind of helped Alabama.
And early in the game, going for it on 4th down and making it, trusting that offensive Joe Moore line. And, the rumor, I read an article today, rumor has it that Nick Saban is going to Indianapolis next year, and he's taking the Crimson Tide with him.
Well, I was nervous early on. I mean, I figured, that they were going to score some points, but the way they scored early was really easy. And I was just thinking, man, this is Florida all over again. Didn't y'all kind of get that vibe for a little while?
Yeah, I did.
Especially when they tied it up 14-14.
But before the half, though, I mean, once we got up 35-17, I turned to my wife, and I was just like, man, this is going to be hard for us to get beat in the second half. And that long drive to start the second half, I think it took up 7 minutes and 50 seconds. And we only ended up kicking a little chip shot field goal. But I think that was a huge drive, just taking time off the clock. And when you did that, you went up by 21.
And Michael, Will Reichard all of his kicks were in the end zone on the kickoffs. Nobody, they didn't return any.
My mother-in-law mentioned that touchbacks, yeah.
And we might have returned one of theirs, but we didn't return any of them. We, fair caught most of them. And,
well, it's what an amazing team. I think some announcer last night said that Alabama has as many as 6 players that could go in the first round of the NFL draft. I think LSU last year they might have had that many. But 6 players to possibly go in the first round of the draft. And then last year, I think Alabama had 4 or 5 that went in the first.
Let's name who we think will go. You got Leatherwood, you got Waddle, you got Devontae Smith. That's 3. You've got Barmore now, the great defensive tackle. He'll probably go in the first round. Mac Jones will probably go maybe late first round.
Najee Harris.
Who else we leaving out?
Najee Harris.
Yeah, Najee Harris. Patrick Surtain.
7.
I mean, he's definitely first round.
Yeah, I think Barmore upped his ante last night.
Oh, and the center. I don't think he's a first rounder, but
I don't know if he's first rounder, but man, I almost started crying when they put him in at the very end. That was unbelievable.
He's happy-lucky guy, happy-go-lucky.
Just had knee surgery, and he still dressed and got in at the very end.
Well, we talked about Waddle. I mean, for him to come back and play was inspiring. And he
made 2 big third down plays.
Mm-hmm.
Also, so I mean, when he made the plays, especially early, and then you could tell he was already limping. But then he caught a big pass in the third quarter when Smith had gotten hurt for a first down. I'll tell you what, man, I was shocked at how poor Ohio State secondary was. They said they were not good before the game. They were not good. I mean, Alabama was open the whole game.
Yeah, Mac Jones throws for 464 yards, and they kind of quit throwing in the fourth quarter.
I was looking at the box score. Jones was phenomenal, 36 for 45 for 464 and 5 touchdowns. Najee had 22 carries for 79 yards. Brian Robinson came in late in the game and ran really hard, had 10 carries for 69 yards. So Alabama has over 600 yards of offense. Received Devontae Smith all in the first half, 12 catches for 215 yards and 3 touchdowns. John Mechie, he's going to be phenomenal next year. He had huge catches throughout the game, 8 receptions for 81 yards. Najee had another 7 receptions for 79 yards, all purpose. He was over 160 yards. Waddle had 3 catches for 34. Billingsley had 2 for 27. And then Slade Bolden had a touchdown pass in the national championship.
His first one.
I'm sure they'll never forget that.
I mean, he had a couple catches. He had more than one.
Hey, John.
Yeah, he had 3 for 16.
For the season, John Mechie, 55 catches, 916 yards, and 6 touchdowns.
He
almost 1,000.
He came in as a high school senior and played in the spring game, and he was the MVP of the spring game. And I thought, right then, I was surprised he didn't play more as a freshman after that spring game. But he really came into his own this year. Then I didn't know his full backstory. Did y'all read the story about his family background?
I just know he's from Canada.
Yeah, he lived in Taiwan and lived all over the place.
Well, his mother is from Taiwan, and his dad is from Ghana. So he lived in Taiwan, Ghana. When he was a child, they moved to Canada. He played football in Canada. And then when he got in high school, he moved to America, went to some schools to play American football. He played in Maryland 1 year. Alabama was after him, said they wanted him, and then they asked him to go to a prep school for a year. So he went to New York, I think, to prep school. So he's been all around the world. Quite a story.
After the game, Mac Jones was with, who's the backup quarterback? Bryce Young. They were taking pictures with a football, and Mac Jones tells him, "Hey, you just keep that football. You can have it." He just laughed and ran off the other way.
I'm wearing my honor of Mike Shula hat today. This is the Mike Shula official A hat he had when he was in Tuscaloosa. Johnny Williams, one of Dad's best friends and a great friend of ours, was associate assistant AD at the time when Shula was at Alabama. And I told my wife, I said, I need to update my Alabama cap game. I was like, this is the big A.
It is a big A.
He was coaching. And I was telling my wife, we're going to Birmingham. I said we might have to actually get the girls some national championship T-shirts, so they'll always remember this.
Let's talk a little bit more about Coach Saban. 6 national championships in 12 years. Let's go back to the year before he won his first. That could have been a national championship team. Then he wins his third year. He wins his first. The next year he loses 3 games to South Carolina, LSU, a close game, and the Auburn in the comeback game. That was his worst team, 3 losses. And I really think
probably his most talented team.
That team blew out Michigan State in the bowl game, and nobody would want to play Alabama on that day. They might have been the best team that year, and they had 3 losses. Well, Auburn was the best team, but the second best team. But I think every year, except for that one year, going into the last regular season game, Alabama is in contention for a national championship. It's like you're Jack Nicklaus or Tiger Woods, and every major tournament you play, you get to hole number 15 on Sunday, and you're
in it.
So I mean, he hadn't won them all, but he has had a chance to win them all, except for one. That's just amazing consistency at the highest level.
And his odds-on favorite to be there next year.
I've never seen Small so much in my life after that game last night. You could tell that team meant a lot. This season meant a lot. He was so happy. The question is now, who the new offensive coordinator is going to be.
Oh, I read it. It's already about a done deal. Nearing the deal with Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien, the former Houston, Texas Penn State coach.
Right. Remember when all that mess with Penn State, he finished 8-4, was the national coach of the year. He's a graduate of Brown University. He's coached at Georgia Tech, Maryland, Duke, the New England Patriots, Penn State as the head coach, Houston Texans as the head coach. He played defensive end and linebacker for the Brown Bears. While he was at Georgia Tech, he coached under Chan Gailey. He's got a wife named Colleen, 2 sons, Michael, and a son, Jack. And his son, Jack, has a rare brain disorder. And but that, you can look up Bill O'Brien, and it says that he's an offense coordinator for the University of Alabama. I read it on Alabama.com or somewhere. And took all those notes, but they're nearing the deal with him.
Somebody that was a head coach in college and in the NFL is going to go and be an assistant and work for Nick Saban.
He's going to be the offensive coordinator, it appears to be.
What if he's going to be a good recruiter? They need to have a great recruiter also. Flood, I think, is leaving as offensive line coach, and he did a great job. He's going to be offensive coordinator, I think, for Sarkisian at Texas. Mm-hmm. And then I think they might lose the wide receivers coach to Texas as well.
I'm sure he has a coaching board on the wall or on his notes or in his brain cells of, hey, if he leaves, I got these 5 I can pick from. Just like he knows he needs to.
They're saying Alabama is this is their 18th national championship. Nationally, they're saying this is Alabama's 13th national championship. So what are the 5 national championships, Bill? You're a historian of Alabama football. That they and the national public don't think Alabama deserves.
They're basing it on since the AP poll era, and the AP poll was introduced in 1936. So all the ones before 1936, going back to the remember the Rose Bowl will win, then that first Rose Bowl win. I've studied it closely. Alabama should claim 17. There's one that Alabama lost 2 games in 1946 or something. They claim they got some service that nobody had ever heard of that gave Alabama the national championship. And so people make fun of dismiss Alabama's claims because of really that one. But all the other ones are as strong as can be. I mean, those were undefeated, great Rose Bowl championship teams. Yeah, I count 17, which is by far more than anybody.
And then 66 team basically had the national championship stolen from them. They were undefeated. One 66 team undefeated.
Yeah, I mean
they had won 2 back-to-back national championships and entered the season as number 1, and 2 teams tied, and they gave it to one of them or both of them, I believe it was.
You know, everybody talks about.
There's a book about that. There's a book about that called "What the Forgotten Ring."
Yeah, I read it. It's a very good book. But Alabama, everybody talks about. Well, Coach Bryant couldn't win the national championships in this BCS and playoff era. I don't know. I mean, he either won it or he was in the top 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the run-in every year too. And there's several years Alabama lucked into some national championships. They had things go just right some years, but also they had strong cases other years where they didn't get it. You mentioned 66. I was at the Alabama-Ohio State game in 1977, 12 years old, ate at Commander's Palace and Brennan's, and parents treated us right, stayed at the Hyatt Regency.
35-6.
Alabama beat Woody Hayes and Ohio State 35-6, just mauled them, just so much better than they were. That team had lost one game early in the year. I think they lost to Nebraska, where by a touchdown when Jeff Rutledge had 5 interceptions. And Alabama was number 3, I think, in the country going into that game. And 2 teams in front of them lost. And then I think that was the year that Notre Dame jumped Alabama from
5
number
or
6.
6, yeah.
So, I mean, that's just one more example of a team that could have had another national
I read an article where part of that, not getting that 1966 championship, was the national media was fed up with what was going on in the South at the time. But the AP poll has Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Clemson 3, Texas A&M 4, Notre Dame 5, Oklahoma 6, Georgia 7, Cincinnati 8, Iowa State 9, Northwestern 10, Florida's at 13, Coastal Carolina in the AP poll, number 14, Louisiana Lafayette 15,
Wow.
Liberty 17, and I believe Appalachian State got 26.
How in the world do you put Coastal ahead of Liberty? Liberty beat them head to head. That makes no sense.
That's what I read this morning, and but that's the AP poll, and
well, that's interesting, Forrest. 2 Sun Belt teams in the top 15.
and
Wow.
Appalachian State was 26, I believe.
right
they had the
outside
next,
it.
yeah.
That's awesome. Alabama beat. Let's count it. Alabama beat Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Texas A&M. This Alabama football
And Florida.
And Florida. Well, they beat 4 of the top 7 teams in the country, I think, or top 8, plus Florida, which when they had all their players was obviously a very good team.
Was Auburn ranked when Alabama beat them?
No.
I can't remember. I know they lost to Alabama and Texas A&M to finish the season.
Auburn had a good solid team. We need to talk about Auburn.
Out in Vegas, Alabama's already at 3-1 to win it all next year. After that, Clemson's 4-1, Georgia 5-1, Oklahoma 6-1. Because Oklahoma's not higher than that. Ohio State 8-1, Iowa State 20-1, and Florida 25-1. Auburn and Brian Hartson would be 50-1.
Well, that's,
No, actually 60-1 to win it all. That'd be some pretty good money if you took Auburn and put a little wager on that.
well, Auburn's lost a lot of players. Their quarterback comes back, and their running back, who, when he's healthy, looks like $1 million. Yeah, we're already talking. Here it is, 20 minutes into the show, and we're already talking about next year. That's what's great about college football.
And Alabama opens up in Atlanta against Miami of Florida.
Ooh, that'll be a tough opening. And that Miami quarterback has announced he's coming back, although he did blow out his knee in the bowl game.
Blow out his knee, yeah. I I mean, they said last night the attendance was 14,000. That looked like more than 14,000 fans. They were really scattered throughout the stadium. I mean, it looked like a pretty good crowd. It seemed like it was more than that, but I guess if they say it's 14, it's 14.
Well, I guess the team spent the night in Miami, and the players got one night to go out and celebrate. I hope in South Beach.
Boy, they deserve it, man. Can you imagine? I mean, how in the world do these kids out of the bars, out of the fraternity houses, out of parties in Tuscaloosa? It makes you wonder. Like, I mean, I'm sure they'll write books about this season. I mean, it makes you wonder how many of these kids had already had COVID during the summer months, before the season had started. I mean, they let them go home for Christmas as well. They were talking about it even on the show. Like, Herbstreit said after the game, it's like these guys pretty much after the game went into solitary confinement. Is the way Herbstreit, talked about it. And it really is amazing. They must have had to provide all kinds of entertainment just after games for these guys not to have anything to do. It's kind of amazing.
I read where Alabama sent all their players an Apple Watch during the, while they were away from Tuscaloosa, when they first went virtual, that kept up with their activity and of what they were doing physically and all that kind of stuff.
So they can monitor them like Big Brother. Yeah. That's an Apple Watch.
But can you imagine the streets of Tuscaloosa last night?
I read that the mayor was warning them not to do that, and I said, well, good luck, Mr. Mayor.
Maddox is a Democratic mayor. He's a huge UAB supporter. I've lived in Tuscaloosa, and he's done a lot. He did a lot after the tornadoes as well. But he's definitely not a fan of those kids going out in the bars and going to fraternity houses and doing anything there. But I don't know how they're going to shut down, the University of Alabama, where football is king. You win a national championship. I mean, what do you expect these kids to do?
Well, then I just.
What do you expect these bar owners to do?
I've heard that
sell some beer.
our local establishments are jam packed.
Here in Troy.
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Packed.
We need to get a sponsor of one of the bars in Troy. Then that'd be a great sponsor to have.
Well, I can tell you from my research that there's a line of demarcation according to age with this virus, and the one thing I've learned is that people college age and younger have virtually no risk of dying or really getting seriously sick. So, I mean, you just look at this past football season, all the people that didn't want to play it. I keep thinking of this Joe Goodman for AL.com that must have written 5 columns saying, don't play, this is ridiculous. And here we've played high school football and college football for 14 weeks and pro football. I don't know of any casualties from COVID.
No, but on the way to work this morning, Pike County Schools is going virtual for the next 3 weeks because of COVID outbreaks in the communities, and they don't want it to get in the schools.
And Pike County, well, Troy City Schools is doing it starting next Wednesday, going through the following Friday. So for 8 school days, Troy City Schools starting next Wednesday is going virtual. So my 2 kids will be home, and my wife, a school teacher, will be home starting next Wednesday.
Well, what?
This is something they've never gone back after the break. Is that right?
No, they've come back.
I heard this morning. I didn't get all the details, but Pike County Schools will go virtual for the next 3 weeks. And
I know Mountbrook Schools. That's where my twin sister's daughter goes up in Birmingham, and they just hadn't gone back yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, what did you end up eating as your pregame meal, Michael?
We grilled some Conecuh sausage, and my wife makes a really good tortilla soup. And we had a few other little appetizers, and then I had plenty of spirits to drink as well, so it was good. We ended the night with a shot. After Alabama wins, we take a shot. So we took a shot about 11 o'clock last night. Then I stayed up and watched Gumbers.
Me too.
What did you eat, Bill?
12:15, I think
I did the same thing, Michael. You sound like me. I watched the SEC network post-game coverage with Roman, and Tim Tebow is really good. They're all good. And then
Roman, how about Roman's suit? That was god awful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What'd you snack on, Bill? And I'll tell you what I had after that.
Well, y'all gonna love this: a Hungry Man TV dinner with chicken strips, mashed potatoes, mixed vegetables, and a brownie. And I didn't eat all of it, but I was too nervous to really eat. Yeah. My wife was going to fix me pork chops in a big meal, and I said, "You're crazy." I'm kind of like Michael, too. I had a couple of beverages to calm my nerves.
Well, here's what I had. At halftime, Campbell's tomato soup. That's what I had. And then, no, that's all I had. And then after the game, I had some Raisin Bran with milk and bananas.
You know, little Jack Rice's favorite meal is, hands down now, is Campbell's chicken and noodle soup. I mean, he can't have enough of it.
Well, that's good.
And that's good. That's good. That's good for the family budget.
Don't eat anything, so they just pick throughout the day. So we basically eat on them when we buy food. It seems like.
Do y'all buy a lot of Lunchables if y'all got to that age? You know what a Lunchable is?
Nah, we buy a bunch of just like boar's head turkey and ham and make little sandwiches, and they're into Cheez-Its and Goldfish and stuff like that. I mean, they don't eat a whole lot. They actually like salami a lot, which is crazy for a little kid.
Wow. We went to Julia's for Sunday dinner after church Sunday, and they got a great spread. And Maggie, you know what she got with that whole buffet? She got a roll and some macaroni and cheese. That was yeah. Of all the 20 things she could have got. And, at least Jack ate. He ate mashed potatoes. He likes English peas.
If you want to see some amazing pictures, go on AL.com with the strip in Tuscaloosa. It was packed, thousands of people on the strip.
Mm.
The national championship.
Yeah, that mayor, it's been controversial. You know, they turned the police out on these students and trying to close these bars. So he must have just raised the white flag and said, "All right, we'll give you one more pass tonight."
Jokingly, after the game, Nick Saban told Smitty, "You're the only player I know that missed a whole half because of your finger." He said it as a joke and said that they couldn't get it to pop back in. Whatever was dislocated.
You know, he was in the tent for like 20 minutes, and then they're like walking to the locker room, and then they come out of the locker room, they take him to the X-ray room, and I told my wife, I was like, "I'm sure he wants to be out there to watch all this." I was like, "This got to be driving me crazy." I'm sitting looking at the monitors on TV, and that is very strange to go to all that work for a broken finger. Like that would have been something they could have just taped up or wrapped up in the tent where he wouldn't have to go in the locker room.
I think it might have been dislocated, but I hadn't heard of Sermon's injury. It might have been a collarbone, but I haven't seen a report on that.
That didn't look like that bad a hit either, did it?
But, you know, another key is those guys coming back one more year. Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, that's and how they just...
At one point last year, I always looked forward a year, and I thought, next year might be challenging, because I just assumed that all of those guys would go pro. Yeah. And then I think first it was, I can't remember who made... Leatherwood makes the announcement.
Leatherwood decided to come back first, yeah.
Then Najee, then Devontae, and then I saw Mac, how good he looked in the games he played last year, and then I said, Alabama might be pretty good next year, especially on offense, and for once I was right.
Well, it took...
According to Scores and Odds, the line went to 9.5 at Pitt, which is Scores and Odds out in Vegas. That's one of the biggest gambling sites out there. And then the over-under was 75 at Pitt. So Ohio State had, I guess, late in the game, two different times they ruled a touchdown on the field. No, one time they ruled a touchdown. It got reviewed, was not a catch. He was judging like going out of bounds. And then another one got reviewed where he got his foot down in the back of the end zone. So a lot of people probably bought a point, maybe 1.5, and had it probably 76.5. And that over ended up being 76. So right on that 75 number it was originally. At one time it was 76.5. So I'd be interested to see the betting public last night. I would imagine a lot of people went with Ohio State at 9.5 because a lot of people bought bought a point, got it at 10.5. I mean, wouldn't you like 10.5 in that game, Bill?
Yeah.
I mean, we were thinking it was going to be close.
Yeah, and as usual, the wise guys knew something. I mean, and then it comes out that Ohio State actually had 13 players out in this game. Not all of them. I think there were 3 starters for COVID issues.
And they lost two or three more during the game.
But yeah, so
and their kicker, if it would come down to a kick, he was not. He was out with COVID.
Mm-hmm. So, we didn't go over all the awards the other day, but the Heisman jinx, Ingram, Henry, and now Smith have put that to rest. But the Maxwell Award, Player of the Year, Devontae Smith. Walter Camp Award, Player of the Year, Devontae Smith. I do want to mention the Home Depot Coach of the Year was Jamie Chadwell for Coastal Carolina. But the Davey O'Brien Award, Best Quarterback, Mac Jones. Remington Award, Best Center, Landon Dickerson. The Doak Walker, Best Running Back, Najee Harris. The Biletnikoff Award, Best Wide Receiver, Devontae Smith. The Outland Trophy winner, Alex Leatherwood. And the Broyles Award, the Best Assistant Coach, Steve Sarkisian.
And Alabama had 6 consensus first-team All-Americans. 6. 5 on offense. Wow. Well, I'm just glad, guys, that we got to see this. For Alabama fans, it was, these players give their fans a gift. I mean, we look forward to these games. We talk about them. We'll remember this. We'll find this the rest of our lives. We take them. Alabama fans take them for granted, but I've said cherish these things and think about all the programs that have never even been in the national championship game, much less won it.
6 times.
Or even won a conference championship. I'm looking at all the SEC teams that hadn't won a conference championship in 50 years. And to win 6 in 12 years, I mean, do y'all think this will ever be seen again? A run?
You and Forrest have actually seen it twice in your life. You've seen it with Brian, and now you've seen it with Saban. I mean, Alabama fans are so spoiled. I say it all the time. I mean, I was there when Johnny Manziel beat Alabama, and I was there when Hugh Freeze beat Alabama. And I think I've been a season ticket holder to Alabama for 20 years at least. And I've seen a lot of great games and a lot of amazing, players. But the coaching right now is just unbelievable with Saban. I mean, you got to call him the GOAT, the greatest of all time now. I mean, Bryant was the GOAT in his era, and now Saban's probably, the greatest of all time in any era.
Well, some people were saying that the greatest.
I remember the Shula days. I had season tickets when Shula was there. I remember the
Dubose
those days. I had season tickets then. I mean, Stalin, when I was in college, was the closest thing to Bear Bryant we ever had. It's just amazing how fortunate you are. I'm looking at my Alabama flag flying out my yard here in Great Beach underneath the live oak trees, and this is the road that the Red Bar is on. So you only can imagine how many people ride by or walk by or on a bike, seeing this flag every day out here in the yard.
Well, I imagine there's a lot of Alabama fans down there where you live. My brother lived in Pensacola for several years, and he said there's a lot of Alabama fans down there.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
all up and down the roads, everywhere. Yeah. I mean, but a lot of people, just cheer for. They want to cheer for number one. They want to be a part of the best team in the country, and they probably have gotten more fans since Saban's been there than they have before. Yeah. So I'm sure it's just one of those things as well.
Well, just as a forecast, the 2 playoff games next year will be at the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl, and the national championship game will be in Indianapolis on the 10th of January at Lucas Oil Field.
Well, if Steve's listening, we probably need to take a commercial break, Michael.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good.
So, if you're listening, we're going to take a short commercial break. And thank y'all for watching. We'll come back and we'll talk some more Alabama football, but maybe we'll talk about some other things too.
At the Piggly Wiggly, we proudly support our local farmers and bring you the best they have to offer, all at cost plus 10%. When you shop local, you reinvest in your community. Remember, buy local, shop local. Piggly Wiggly, local since forever.
Our history is woven with the stories of those we serve. At Max, we've been a good community partner for 65 years. Max is dedicated to providing dependable financial services and to supporting our communities. We volunteer our time and share our resources. As a credit union, we've returned millions of dollars back to our members, local nonprofits, and small businesses. Max is honored to be a part of your story. We look forward to serving you for years to come.
Hi, Sandy. I'm right here. Come on in.
Baby, I'm right here. Miss Mary, I'm right here. I'm right here.
Since 1969, we've been right here because at Troy Regional Medical Center, we take these words to heart.
I'm right here. Thank you.
Remarkable people, remarkable care.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
But I know they're going virtual for 3 weeks, I'm sure.
All right, we're back on there, everybody. I'm Bill Rice, and this is Forrest Lee. Sounds like Michael is dealing with his children in Grayton Beach, Florida. We're thinking about Mike Amos this morning. Mike is on his way to Birmingham to have a medical operation procedure, and we're all thinking and praying about him. That will be tomorrow. Is when he's going up today to get ready for that. Has to do with his Parkinson's disease that we hope is going to make his Parkinson's symptoms not as severe.
Yeah.
But he at least got to watch the Alabama-Ohio State game like all of us. I'm sure it had tremendous TV ratings.
He called a little bit earlier this morning. I think he's going to call back, but talked to him briefly this morning, and hope Mike the best. And I do want to thank Mike for allowing you and I to be on the show, and I've enjoyed being on it. And thinking of this show, I want to thank Steve Kemp for what he does, and I would like to see Steve on Survivor. I think he'd make a good candidate.
You know, you're
Steve
right.
Kemp.
Steve
Somebody call the show.
Steve would excel on Survivor. He's a Renaissance man, but he's also a country boy, can survive type man. You know, if things get really bad, like some people are predicting, you want to know those people that can take care of themselves, that can skin a deer and lay a trot line, or what's the Hank Williams Jr. line?
You remember old Yule Gibbons, parts of a pine tree are edible? I remember that commercial.
Mike Amos calling in right there.
Let's see. Let me see if I can get it. Put up you on hold. Do hold one, conference one, conference. All right. Hello. Well, hold on. Conference. Yes, you're on Today in L.A. This is Bill Rice.
Good morning, Bill. This is Mike Amos.
Hey, Mike. Roll Tide.
Hey, are your ears burning? We were just talking about you.
Well, I do appreciate it, and believe it or not, I am just leaving the house, leaving my home to head to Birmingham as we speak. But I do appreciate your kind words this morning, and Bill, tell little Mike he's the winner of a Yeti cooler.
Yeah, here's the. Yep, you had. Yeah, you had 79 points. 41-38, total 79, and the total was 76, and you edged. Jason had 83, and I finished last with 59.
Well, what was the scores? What did everybody predict? I had.
Will
Rice actually picked Ohio State, didn't you, right?
No, I had Alabama.
Yeah, Will had 56-42. Bill had 52-45. You got the Bama score on the nose, but you had Ohio State scoring 45 points. That's 97 points. Michael 41-38, total 79 points. Mike had 68 points, 37-31. Jason had 48-35 for 83 points. And I had 38-21, 59 points. So I had the halftime score.
Is your way you're doing it the total points or the point differential in the games? I mean, there's
y'all tell me.
Yeah, well, let's see, you had a total of 90-something points, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought you might. That's fine. That's as good as anyway. But I thought you might do it like Alabama won by 28 points, and you might say who. I had Alabama winning by 7. I think Jason had Alabama winning by a lot, so I thought he might have won.
I mean, you could do it either way. You know, if I had 41-38, I had Alabama basically 11 points short, and then I had Ohio State 14 points short.
Oh, you would have won.
Well, as far as the differential in points,
you would have won.
There was 26 points in difference, or 28 points. I had the biggest differential of 17 points, so it's in dispute.
You went low on your score, didn't you? Didn't you go like in the 20s?
Yeah, I had 38-21, but I had Alabama winning by 17. But anyway.
Well, we all had Alabama winning, and I thought. And,
Dad, what did you think of the game overall?
Well, I thought it was. I couldn't believe that Alabama would be able to control the football like it did. If you look at it, Alabama had the ball a lot longer than Ohio State.
About 37 minutes.
Running back on the first play of the game was a big thing for Alabama. You know, if he plays, it gives them a much better running attack, and it would have been a closer ball game. But I tell you what, you can talk about everybody, but the quarterback for Alabama, he just was brilliant. I mean, he was brilliant. He just controlled the offense, and of course, Smith is probably the best receiver ever to play the game of college football. But the quarterback who I was not a believer in at the first of the year, he was just outstanding. He was really, really good.
Well, Najee Harris' versatility had 79 yards rushing, 79 yards pass receiving. I mean, he's so versatile. And it's limber and it's like a jackrabbit.
Yeah, I'll tell you this.
You can't catch him.
I didn't know Alabama's players up front were as good as they were. You know, I saw a lot of TV today, and all these people were predicting that Ohio State's offensive line would blow by Alabama's defensive line and make a big difference there. But what's his number? Number 58?
Yeah, Barmore.
Well, Barmore.
Christian Barmore.
He is something else. If they could talk him into coming back next year, would that be?
There's no way that guy's coming back. He's first round pick. Oh.
And do you feel like the Alabama quarterback will be a first round pick or a second or third pick?
I think late first round now.
First round.
I think he's too. I compared him to a college version of Brady. The way he just is so efficient. He spreads the ball around. He executes the plays perfectly. I mean, a lot of these plays are set up with misdirection or looking one way, going one way. I mean, he just flawlessly executes Sarkisian plays. I mean, think of that play where and then Devontae goes in motion and he goes one way and he stops and he goes the other way and stops, and it just discombobulates the defense. But then Max sells those plays. You know, they get everybody looking the wrong way for a split second. And that's my in-depth analysis there.
I mean, that type of offense, because you can't stop it. What if you were the guy that was trailing that guy in motion and then it turns back goes the other way.
No, I know it. What do you do? He can just stop.
Yeah, one thing about Mac Jones, too, is he got injured. I don't know if y'all noticed late in the game, fourth quarter, he barely walked.
Yeah. You know,
His leg.
Barmore
Really hurting out there.
Barmore is 6'5", 310 from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Hey, Matt,
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
We're getting them from all over the place.
Y'all has got to be the idol of so many households this morning. Kids that watch that game and watch the smile on his face. I tell you, he has made a hero out of himself with kids all over this country. Don't you agree? Well, he's the kind of kid that you'd want to root for, you know?
Well, he's a 4.0 student. He's already got his master's degree.
2 degrees.
Just wow. Got great mom and daddy and siblings. The moment I've never seen a moment that was too big for him. Even the Auburn game, he comes in and he starts, and their Alabama fans say, "Oh no, we don't really have a chance." Throws the infamous 2 pick sixes, but you know he hung in there, and I saw a lot. That's when I said, "Well, I knew he was good before that Auburn game. I'd watched him in mop-up duty and said this guy's pretty good."
He had all.
But after that Auburn game, when he just took hit after hit and kept coming back, I said, this guy is a big-time player.
Eastern Carolina, Mercer, Kentucky offered him. Then a late offer by Alabama, and he said, you know, physically I'm not ready for the SEC. I want to go to Alabama where I can develop. And the rest, he waited his turn and worked.
Are you on the speakerphone? It's like an echo.
Yeah, do we have echo?
Yeah, turn the speaker off.
There we go. All right, good.
Yeah, you're better now.
I'm off air right now, and I'll let y'all have it.
So you're on your way to Birmingham.
No, we can hear you now. I'm just saying when you're on the speaker, it was an echo.
I should have gotten off that speaker. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. We hear you now.
Okay, good.
But we were talking about earlier in the game, though. I mean, the way you got to look at Saban now compared to Bryant's era. You know, Saban's now won 7 national championships. Bryant won 6. I mean, I don't see Saban slowing down. I mean, I think he'll coach another 5 years. How many more national championships do you think he'll win?
Well, he's winning one average of every 2 years, so at least 2 more.
I would say that the competition level now compared to Bryant was not even comparable. I mean, Saban won 13 games against, 12 games against SEC opponents and 1 against the top, other top team in the country.
11 against the SEC, and then 1 against Notre Dame, 1 against Ohio State.
So if you count that would count the playoff games.
And to think of the 2 SEC teams Alabama did not play, Vanderbilt and South Carolina, which are arguably the 2 worst SEC teams, so they played the best 11 SEC teams.
Yeah. After the smoke clears, we beat number 13 Florida. We beat number 7 Georgia. We beat number 5 Notre Dame, number 4 A&M, and number 2 Ohio State. And now I rest my case. The defense rests.
I know we're pouring it on with Alabama. Of course, Wiley got his truck line in Troy, Alabama. We appreciate them, and also our good friend at Premier Dive Crisis.
We sure do. But you know this.
I'm sure Jason Gregory enjoyed that game last night. He's a huge Auburn fan.
Yeah.
You know he will though, because it gives joy to millions of people that care deeply about Alabama football. And so as rough as this year has been, the roughest year of my life, to have this little ray of sunshine as an Alabama fan is a real gift. We're as an Alabama fan, I'm real grateful to the players and the coaches and the support staff.
It's going to give their noses time to heal for those swabs going up. But, you know, the medical staff, the nutritional staff, and having the discipline to be in a bubble, you know, and not that other teams didn't do it, but
They seem to have no distractions. They're all future NFL players. That sometimes messes them up. No discipline issues, no arrest. Just an unbelievable season in every regard. Alabama had two games. Ole Miss, where they had to sweat it out for a good part of the game. And then Florida made it a game for a while. But other than that, Alabama not only won, they just coasted in all these games.
Yeah, Alabama was up 35-17 in the half against Florida. It just didn't come out until the third quarter.
Ole Miss was a tough one.
Excited today, and of course they will be for a while. The Auburn folks can wait for next year, and of course the Auburn folks said, we got to turn our program around. I think they started off in a pretty good way. They've hired some of the best assistant coaches that I've seen in a long time in the SEC, so they're going to be better.
Hey, I'll tell you all this, football historian I am. Alabama wins the national championship in 2009, beats Texas on top of the world, I think beat Auburn, and then what happens the next year? Auburn wins the national championship.
Cam Newton got paid $200,000?
No. And then Auburn comes back and wins. I can remember when Pat Dye retired. Alabama had just won the national championship with Gene Stallings. Terry Bowden comes in as the coach, and what does Auburn do? Run the table, undefeated.
They were on probation, so couldn't play for long.
I'm trying to give Auburn I'm just showing that things can turn in a hurry.
I'm just saying, that wasn't an undefeated season, but they were on probation. You better be humble, son. You better be humble. No, I'm just saying, did you realize most of those games, I don't think they had a television ban that year as well, did they? When they when they were on probation, you couldn't watch their games either?
I can't remember that.
First 22 games, is that right? Did he win his first 22 games?
Yeah.
He won his first 20, and I think he tied with somebody after that. Bowden's the new head coach of Law Monroe. Will he turn Louisiana Monroe around?
There's. Good luck. Good luck.
All right,
good
we're
luck,
thinking
Michael.
about you, Mike.
Good luck, Mike. Mr. Mike.
All right. Mike is going up to. Go Trojans.
Go Trojans.
Yeah, go Trojans, that's a perfect example of your wife not wanting to listen to the show while you drive.
We're talking about Pike County schools and Troy City schools are going to virtual learning for a period of time. I guess that means no sporting events.
I have no clue on that.
No girls and boys basketball.
I think Goshen and Pike County are supposed to play tonight. Whether or not that will take place, I have not heard. Like I said, I just caught the glimpse of it, heard the glimpse of it on WTBF this morning. I guess you can call the radio station or call the schools to get an update. But they have this phone system where they can call all the parents and
I got a phone
text
call
all the students and all that kind of stuff.
From Maggie's principals. It's kind of strange. I mean, they didn't do it today. They're starting it on next Wednesday.
And that's subject to change now.
Well, I guess they're starting it this Wednesday. I don't know. But there's an 8 or 9 day sabbatical they're taking I guess they think that'll help us get through this rough period of COVID where we're having a spike in cases, obviously.
In basketball,
Troy plays Kentucky tonight.
That'll be a big one. Is it going to be in Kentucky?
Yeah.
At Kentucky?
Yeah, it's going to be at Kentucky. Alabama's now 9-3 in the conference. 9-3 overall, 4-0 in the conference. Probably the best basketball team they've had in years. Kentucky, I think, started the season 1-6, but is now 3-0 in the SEC. So it should be a really good game tonight.
Mm-hmm. The Troy men are supposed to travel to Georgia Southern this weekend and play Friday and Saturday, and the women are supposed to host Georgia Southern this weekend. Friday at 6, Saturday at 4. Of course, they had to cancel their games last week with Georgia's State, I believe it was, because there were issues with Georgia State and their with COVID issues.
You know, basketball is different than football because you only have 11 or 12 players. So you have these protocols, contact tracing protocols. I mean, I can see where it hit everybody on the team if just one person tests positive, and I can also see scenarios where people have to sit out for contact tracing multiple times in the year. You know, their teammate Johnny gets it, you know, in December, so 2 people have to sit out for 14 days. Then their teammate Mike gets it, and then they've got to sit out. It's tougher in basketball to field a team than in football where you have 85 players.
Hey, there was something I wanted to mention if I could. This past year of 2020, some of the sports figures that fought the good fight and passed away. Don Shula this past year, Gail Sayers, of course Kobe Bryant, Paul Hornung, George Pearls, I think he's a football coach at Michigan State, Big Bob Gibson, Phyllis George, sports commentator, Pat Dye, Tom Seaver, the great Sim Bird from Troy State, Joe Morgan, the basketball coach John Thompson, Auburn's Kevin Green, played pro football a lot with the Steelers.
Yeah, he was great.
Whitey Ford, Al Kaline of the Detroit Tigers, Jim Kick, Miami Dolphins, number 21.
I missed some of these forces. I didn't know about some of these people passing.
I pulled it up. Lou Brock, Tom Dempsey, John Schlarman, the coach at Troy University and recently at Kentucky, Johnny Majors from Tennessee, Phil Necro, Pepper Rogers, and Ray Perkins. I just pulled that up about a week ago, and those are the people we've lost, plus a lot more.
Well, we just lost Tommy Lasorda back when I was kind of, you know, nobody's a bigger baseball fan growing up than Mike Amos. But, you know, at one point when I was a kid, I was like everybody, you know, most people in America, I followed it very closely. And that was back when the Dodgers had it going on, and Tommy Lasorda was the face of the Dodgers, and we just lost him.
Yeah, he had a good life. He was 93 years old. He was part of the Dodgers organization as a coach, manager, player personnel, I think, for 60 years. So that's pretty incredible.
You know, it's like back then when something came on TV, you were glued to it because that was about all that was on TV if it was sports. And the newspapers, you could just keep up with what was going on if you had a local newspaper, be it the Advertiser or the Dothan Eagle. But I bought a Dothan Eagle this morning, and the stats for last night's game are not in it. Well, I guess the game got over late, but it, you know, 5 years ago, it'd probably be in there. But
I can tell you
that's
about
not throwing anybody under the bus. It's just how it is.
Well,
and it's hard to find it online.
Well, news staffs have just dwindled to nothing. And that's the sports department, too. I mean, it used to be Alabama or Auburn would play a game, and you'd have 6 or 7 reporters for one newspaper at the game. You might be lucky to have 2 now. I mean, Troy University used to get a lot more coverage. Everything's changing, man. I mean, in the newspaper business, I just hope we have daily newspapers, you know, 2 or 3 years from now. That's a question mark to me.
Alabama will play Kentucky tonight on ESPN at 8 o'clock, if anybody wants to watch that. I was going to mention, you know, Will Ryford, the kid from Hoover, the kid for Alabama this year. So he was perfect on the season on field goals and extra points. I'd like to look up that for kickers in Division I history that were perfect on a season. There can't be many of them. What do you think?
I wouldn't think so.
No, you're right.
I mean, field goals and extra points. The guy was absolutely perfect. He did kick two 50-yarders too. So I mean, some of them were chip shots.
Well, Nick Saban I've heard him say that he's the best kicker in America. After all the kicking woes Alabama's had, they have found them a great place kicker. Punter.
You know who was celebrating after the game was Vallejos. Vallejos actually stayed up the team.
Yeah.
You know, he's the guy that missed the chip shot field goal against Auburn last year, missed several field goals, but I guess he ended up staying on the team. And Alabama, you know, they had J.K. Scott's brother, Charlie, come in, who was a kicker at Air Force Academy for 3 years, a starter. And he ended up coming in and punting, and, of course, Alabama didn't punt a whole lot, but he did a good job punting for Alabama.
Who was the snapper? They mentioned him on national TV. He has snapped for Alabama for 4 years.
Yeah, his last name's Fletcher.
Fletcher.
Oh, he's an unsung hero. You know, he I don't remember a bad snap in the last 4 years, and you know, he gets no attention, but you know, gosh, he was fantastic.
Thomas Fletcher from Georgetown, Texas.
Thank you, Thomas. Great snapper. He'll probably get a chance to play in the pros as good as he was.
He went to IMG Academy.
Let's look at Alabama's lineup next year on offense. Offensively, who's coming back? You got Evan Neal, the great tackle. I mean, he's a phenomenal player. He'll come back. You got number 55. What is he? Okoye? What is his name?
Something like
the
that.
Guard.
He'll be back.
He'll be back. They're side by side. I guess you got an outside chance that the center will come back.
He could come back, and I think he ought to. He ought to be the obvious starter. Now he'll be a 6-year guy, but yeah, maybe he will.
So Chris Owens might come back.
Tight end.
I think
Billingsley.
Tight end Billingsley will be back. Forsall was a senior.
He could come back, but I don't think he will.
Yeah. To about Ekafor, Evan Neal.
I definitely think Brian Robinson will come back, the kid from Tuscaloosa, because he wants to try to be the starting running back.
Boy, if he runs like he did last night, he ought to come back. Now he's got some freshmen that came in mop-up duty that opened my eyes too. So Alabama, if he comes back, and then the kid that got hurt in the car wreck, I suspect some of those running backs are going to transfer.
Yeah. Kendall Randolph, number 85, is a Kendall Randolph, number 85. He's a redshirt junior, and there's Pierce Quick, redshirt freshman, Darian Dalcourt, Tommy Brown. Those some other names on the depth chart that I'm looking at. And they're sophomores and freshmen.
I think the offensive line will be good. And when the backup came in, they did pretty good this year. So offensive line good. I think Bryce Young's going to be fine. Mechie's going to be really good. Slade Bolden's good.
Slade Bolden will be coming back as well. So they got a lot of guys coming back.
Does Xavier Williams come back? He started playing more at the end of the year. Number 3.
Oh yeah, he's only a sophomore, I believe.
On offense, pretty good. Defense should be better, don't you think?
Defense ought to have everybody coming back.
Now, well, Dylan Moses needs to come back.
Surtain may not. Surtain's probably gone.
No, he's first round pick.
What about Job?
Job's a junior.
Come back.
He's a junior. You got LeBron Ray's a redshirt junior. DJ Dale's a sophomore. Christian Barmore is a redshirt sophomore. Will Anderson, freshman. Christian Harris, sophomore. Chris Allen, redshirt junior. Josh Jobs, a junior.
He played great this year.
Daniel Wright's a junior. Jordan Battle's a sophomore. Malachi Moore.
Those freshman defensive backs are players.
Yeah, Brant's played good.
I like every one of them.
Alabama should have their best defense in years next year.
If Brian Ray could come back and somehow stay healthy, he was projected to be a possible first-round pick, and but you know, as little as he played, I don't think anybody would draft him.
I did not know that Joshua McMillan's a redshirt senior.
Yeah, this is his 6th year actually. He had a medical red shirt too. Yeah, he blew out his knee last year before the season.
plus the freshmen that are rolling in to Tuscaloosa. Who knows what they will contribute?
Well, just what y'all said, on paper, Alabama should have enough. And then plus every team, it's all relative. Every team loses players, more so than ever, it seems like, with transfers and going pro. So you look at Florida, they lost their quarterback. Texas A&M had a really good team this year, but they lose a lot of key players. Auburn lost a lot of players from a 6-4 team.
Michael, Bill, how does that work? If somebody is in the transfer portal, can they contact the university, or can the university contact them? How does that work?
Yeah, the rule this year is nobody has to sit out a year, so you can transfer anywhere you want, anywhere throughout the country.
But
That's another thing. That's another thing. Alabama can go and get anybody they want to that they have a need for. If they need a linebacker, if they need a backup quarterback, if they need more receivers. I mean, everybody's going to want to go play for them.
But as far as recruiting, does the player contact the university, hey, can I come play for y'all? Or can the university go after those guys and recruit them in the transfer portal? Is it both ways?
I think it's both. I mean,
there's not a limit as to when you can do that?
I think there's
or rules?
My guess would be you can't contact a player unless they've officially entered the portal. But once they've officially entered the portal, you can contact them. But I don't. What's stopping the player himself from contacting the schools? I mean, he can.
Also, it's just. I mean, I guess the coach had to let them know if they had the numbers available for them to transfer. I mean, they're going to keep everybody's scholarship, I guess. If they want to come back, they can come back. That's what the NCAA rules were.
You know, Ben Davis could come back. He's a kid I've been pulling for that was a 5-star prospect out of Gordo. And a lot of Alabama fans say, oh, he's a disappointment. But, you know, he hung in there and never transferred. And, you know, he played a little this year, and he played last night.
Yeah, he made a tackle last night. He's number one.
I think he's getting better.
His dad was a great player.
Wayne Davis. Yeah, he sure was. Made a lot of tackles.
I mean, the more I think about it, Alabama's just going to be loaded on defense next year.
You need defensive linemen. You need disruptive defensive linemen, so they'll lose Barmore, who was coming into that role. But 31 is going to be a big-time player. 4 is going to be
I mean, he's going to be like a Derek Thomas.
Who's going to be our offensive line coach? To develop the offensive line, that is the key. Because that was the key this year, I think, or a big key. Plus, you got the 3 horsemen. But I think you got the meat up front. You can do a lot of things.
We want to thank our sponsors today, Premier, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Jason Gregory, Sisters Restaurant, great place to eat. Go see Pat and Geraldine today. I wish I could go get some chicken fingers or squash casserole or banana pudding. One of my favorite places to eat in Troy. Of course, going to mention other sponsors, PS Fall Furniture. Andy Falk, dear friend of mine, huge Alabama fan. I'm sure he was excited last night. If you want to go down there and buy unbelievable driftwood, teakwood, furniture, bedding, lights, lamps, whatever you could possibly look for, go see Andy at PS Fall Furniture and Enterprise.
Oh, yeah. Joe Falk will be happy. Dickie Calhoun will be happy. Alan Jones will be happy. All the Ramages will be happy. All the longtime big Alabama fans are very happy.
I saw where Bill and Trey Jackson, Jim and Trey Jackson were down there, I believe, yesterday.
Jim Jackson will be very happy. Denny Sanford will be very happy. Just go down the list. Bill Rice Jr. is happy. Forrest Lee, Mike Amos.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Emerald Coast Red Elephant Club chapter down here, and they've moved all our meetings this year to Zoom. So Eli Gold conducts a lot of meetings, interviews coaches and former great players and stuff like that. And our president is in with some of those bigwig folks, as far as the university. He was at the game last night taking pictures. So there was actually more people I knew at the game than I was expecting. When you looked on Facebook last night. But that was a tough ticket, $1,300. But I'm sure a lot of Alabama fans $1,300 to go watch a Nationals championship's not that bad.
No, I've done a lot of research into the history of all the great college football programs, and Alabama. That game was kind of significant last night. Alabama has the most on-the-field wins by far of any team in college football the last 100 years. I'm not counting the forfeits and the games as the scoreboard was at the end of the game. But Ohio State actually has a bigger winning percentage than Alabama. So I think it is by a narrow margin. I think it's 7.752 for Ohio State, 0.749 for Alabama as of about 6 games ago. So Alabama's going to narrow that gap on the all-time winning percentage, and I think they passed Oklahoma for the most wins since the AP poll era, which is 1936. That was the only team that had more wins, and they had one more win than Alabama since 1936. And this year, Alabama finishes with 13 wins. I think Oklahoma finished with 11. So Alabama should have moved ahead of them. They've moved ahead of Michigan for all-time wins. So, the superlatives just continue to mount under Coach Saban.
Ryan Day, of course, he's only 41. My wife was asking me his age during the game, and I was looking it up. And, he had a good season. Of course, they didn't play as many games as Alabama. But, I think that was a huge factor. He's coaching his first national championship game. He's going up against Saban. He's won more national championships than anybody. I felt like he was very conservative, running the ball a lot in the third and fourth quarter. Don't you got to take shots? Don't you just have to throw it downfield and see what happens?
Well, not only...
How many deep throws did Justin Field make the whole game?
Well, they kept making a comment, too. They were playing 4-4 on defense with linebackers that, of course, I'm no coach guru.
You're an old football coach.
But, they didn't... The couple of times they brought pressure was one, I don't know if Billingsley just missed that block, but they only pressured him like once or twice, but Jones was able to get up and move. But,
he made some good runs. And he got hurt, lunging for a first down. Or every time this year, he either slides or lunges, and it's real awkward, and he almost hurts himself every time he does it. And last night he did hurt himself.
Yeah. Like you were saying, I thought they were real conservative on offense.
Yeah, and then, he just makes that decision to go for it on fourth down, and, gives Alabama the ball at the 40, their own 45-yard line. And that was a really bad decision, I thought, at the time as well.
Yeah, Barmore.
Running the ball there. Barmore made the play.
Right.
Once that play happened, I pretty much felt like Alabama was going to win the national championship.
Well, I'm going to, when I get home after the show, I'm going to read all what the national pundits say. A lot of storylines for this game. The Nick Saban 7 national championships, the GOAT storyline, the COVID storyline, the unselfish Alabama players storyline. We haven't talked about the Jalen Waddle coming back and playing with a broken ankle storyline.
The kicking game.
Kicker
is better.
Yeah, Waddle, I think, definitely gave the offense and all the players an extra boost just seeing him out there. Just watching him in pregame running, and working out. The pregame, I don't know if y'all started watching it early yesterday.
I did.
Home after being out and about. I think it started at 1 o'clock yesterday.
Yeah, I watched it, most of it.
And if you wanted to listen to Eli Gold, the Alabama radio broadcast was live on SEC Network, so that was kind of fun to switch over to.
Yeah. I just love Najee Harris's personality. He's just cucumbers. Harris.
He's a character. He was a 5-star pick, high school prospect, supposedly the number one running back in California. And on signing day, I remember he didn't even make an announcement. It was just it was just assumed that he was coming to Alabama. But everybody has these press conferences where they put a hat on. He didn't even do that. And they said that they knew Najee was coming to Alabama when he just showed up a couple of days later on campus. They said, okay, I guess Najee's coming to Alabama.
Anyway.
And he came all the way from California. And then you've talked about, then Tua was in that recruiting class. Boy, let's talk about that for us, and Michael.
Oh.
Best all-time recruiting class.
Ruggs.
The recruiting class of 2016-17. Strong case can be made that that's the best signing class.
Judy, Ruggs, Tua.
Leatherwood, Mac Jones, Najee Harris. On and on.
I want to say Jarrett Wills.
Dylan Moses.
Jarrett Wills was in that class.
That's
he
right.
went last year as a junior. First round pick for the Browns.
I think you're going to end up with, out of that recruiting class, with at least 10 first-round NFL draft picks. They only can sign 25. So, 40% of the recruiting class ended up being NFL first-round draft picks. And I'm so glad that class was so good, it would have been really a disappointment if they just got that one national championship their freshman year. But now they've got 2. And they played for 3 when Clemson took care of them. I say last year, the what ifs, what if 2 was healthy and they might have been playing for 4.
Well, I was at the one in California, and it's my fault because I dropped my hot dog before the game started.
That was stunning to see Alabama, because when Alabama got beat, it was usually a close game at the last minute, and then you just didn't think that they would lose to Clemson by, 24 points or something?
We were knocking on the door.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence in that game looked like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady. I mean, that was the greatest quarterback performance, maybe up until what I saw Mac Jones do last night in the college football national championship. Of course, Joe Burrow was pretty good last year for LSU as well. A lot of people think that LSU team last year was one of the best that ever, won a national championship, one of the best teams ever. But that Alabama team this year was, I think they were their equal, especially doing it all in SEC schedule.
Yeah, you can make that LSU team was unbelievable. Saying that,
isn't it crazy to look at the numbers Alabama put up at wide receiver with DeVonta Smith? Of course, he wins the Heisman. I think Najee rushes for almost 1,500 yards. Mac Jones throws for over 4,000 yards. I mean, this is all in 13 games. Normally they would have played 15 games.
I think he finished with 40.
Unbelievable numbers.
I think he finished with 4,500 on the dot.
Think of how many more yards
percentage
Alabama would have had if Waddle had played the whole year. I mean, he was electric. DeVonta Smith probably wouldn't have won the Heisman Trophy. You know who would have won the? You know who would have won the Heisman Trophy? Mac Jones. Mac Jones would have won the Heisman Trophy.
Imagine if Waddle would have played. Say he had about 1,200 yards. DeVonta Smith had 1,200 yards.
Well.
You would have had maybe 5. Well, you had 3 guys in the top 5. You might have had 4 guys in the top 5 of the Heisman.
It's just the superlatives could never end. I'm a writer, freelance. I just think about all the columns I could write about this team, the glowing columns. A lot of examples. I mean, sports does teach discipline, patience, hard work. All those cliches you hear about sports, but why do they become cliches? Because they're true. And then everybody made the point about Coach Saban. What separates him is he's done it consistently, and you can see why has he done it consistently, because that's the standard he cares the most about: doing your job consistently, and it applies to himself. But one of the most amazing facts about Alabama football in recent years is, to me, Alabama has won 96 or 98 games in a row against unranked teams. Normally, teams let down or have one off game or don't prepare, but Coach Saban doesn't let this happen to his teams. They don't lose to the people they're not supposed to lose to.
Well, the upcoming factors in the Southeastern Conference probably will be, number one, what is Tennessee going to do? They got to make, they're in limbo. LSU, there's something going on in LSU.
Right.
Auburn is creating a phenomenal coaching staff. Now they just got to go out and recruit and try to pick some of these folks that are in limbo. And in 2 weeks, let's look and see what kind of coaching changes are going to happen at Alabama, because he's going to have to fill those shoes, offensive line coach, offensive coordinator, where it looks like it's going to be Bill O'Brien, and you're going to lose your special teams coach, possibly. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets hired, and they just got to start over, and you can't rest on last year's laurels. And, Troy State, they're going to open up at Southern, and then we play Liberty, then Southern Miss, and then we play South Carolina next year. So Troy's, their conference is loaded, and 500 maybe.
We call a bad break, Long Monroe firing their coach, and I believe 10 days. Troy should have finished 6-6 for sure. Of course, they finished 5-6, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Lindsey does. Right now, he says all these seniors are coming back, so they ought to be the most experienced team Troy's ever put on the field next year.
Troy needs a good year next year. They're like the proverbial box of chocolates. You don't ever know what you're going to get, but I mean, they're competitive, and they've lost a lot of close games, won some close games too. But I mean, they haven't fallen off the cliff completely. I mean, they're mediocre, but you need to. You never need to go 3 or 4 years in a row really bad. You talk about the arc of Alabama football. I've noticed one thing that kind of separates Alabama from the Nebraskas and the Penn States and even the Texases and USCs that have had down cycles. Alabama's never lasted for like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years in a row. There was always one spike every 3 years. One good team that would keep the fans happy, and so you just don't want to have an extended demise, which is really what happened to Alabama basketball. Have y'all thought about that? Once upon a time, Alabama took a Sweet 16 for granted, competed for the SEC championship, and then lo and behold, you look up and you say, gosh, for 25, 30 years, Alabama basketball has been mediocre. I mean, it's just...
Well, Gothard got them to the Elite Eight, that was the first time they'd ever made it to the Elite Eight. But
besides that,
Hobbs was, mediocre. Avery Johnson was mediocre. Anthony Grant was really mediocre. No. I think they got a basketball coach now in Oaks, so I think it's the real deal.
Well, Troy, with all that's going on and what's starting to escalate with COVID, basketball season is one day at a time. Baseball season, who knows? So it's going to be interesting to see what now is going to take place. We were able to get through with football, but I say it's a toss-up right now for spring sports and basketball.
Yeah. I mean, if you read, some people are saying that this is going into 2022. The mask wearing, the restrictions on businesses. The vaccine won't be widely administered until, summer or fall. So, I mean, everybody's talking about we're going to have football next year and back to normal. Gosh, I hope so, and I think it's very possible, but it's no sure thing.
Well, I know we got to wrap it up.
Okay.
I want to make sure everybody keeps that in their prayers tonight. He's got some pretty major surgery tomorrow. Of course, I'll be up at Birmingham, and everybody be thinking of Dad. I guess probably won't hear from him on the show for about a week at least. But also be out, thoughts and prayers to everybody deal with COVID. Got a lot of very close friends and just dear friends that are battling right now, so pray for them as well.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for watching, and I echo what Mike
Stay
said.
tuned
We're
tomorrow.
we're thinking about Mike Amos today and the rest of this week.